Hey everybody, Ryan here. Today I'm going to be talking about the Batman franchise, and we're going to be talking about Batman, Batman Returns, Batman Forever, and Batman and Robin. Today on Ryan's Cinematic Obsessions. As I said in my last video where I was doing my Black Friday update, I told you guys I was watching, or rewatching should I say, the Tim Burton's Batman, Batman Returns, Joel Schumacher's Batman Forever, and Batman and Robin. And these are usually films that I revisit from time to time. I revisit Batman more often than all the other ones because that one's my favorite. But as I watched them all this time, I kind of took in all the experience, I guess you could say, and I really saw things that I didn't like or did like, but this is just my opinion of these Batman films. So let's go ahead and get started. We're gonna get started with Batman, Tim Burton. This movie was always one of my favorite movies growing up as a kid. I remember being really young. I wore out the VHS of this twice. I actually got it for Christmas a couple years in a row because I kept breaking the tapes. I mean, I watched them constantly. And I had always been completely intoxicated with the film. I thought it was scary for different parts. I thought it was very awesome how they showed Batman. And I thought Jack Nicholson was completely haunting as the Joker. I mean, I thought it was insane. And I loved the whole gangster feel to the whole movie. And I don't know why I was so obsessed with it when I was a kid. And as I got older, I started to realize because it's a very well done film. And for those of you who have not seen the 1989 Tim Burton's Batman, you're really missing out. It's a great film. It's basically, starring Michael Keaton as Batman, who I think was an amazing Batman. I know people had their reservations with him at first, but I've liked him growing up as Batman, and I thought he was great. I thought he showed the character of Bruce Wayne. He kind of had this slight, like at the beginning of the film, a slight, oh yeah, I'm rich and I know it kind of feeling, but then he was this heroic human person on the other end, and he really captured the character. And a lot of people, I guess before the movie came out, they were like, Michael Keaton, he's usually a goofball in some of the movies that he's been in, but it really showed like that charming, sweet side, I guess you could say, really made him the billionaire bachelor Bruce Wayne. You know what I mean? Like, he was charming to the women, even though he was very rich, and that just showed that side of him. But yet, at night or whenever he was needed, he was Batman. He was ruthless. He was always out to get the bad guys, I guess you could say. And I was just always blown away by that. And the Jack Palance as the actual crime boss of the film that set up Jack Napier, who is the Joker. All those scenes remind me of reading the comics. I mean, it was breathtaking. The setting, the scenery, just everything with the film I loved. Danny Elfman's score was amazing. And I had always loved it. And, the end of the movie, as they're, climbing the church tower, I always was just completely blown away by that entire sequence. And it's funny because now I hear that Tim Burton was really, inspired for that scene from Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo, which is one of my all-time favorite films. And so I was always drawn to that scene. And I remember when I was a kid, I was always so freaked out that they made, spoiler if you haven't seen this movie coming up, or if you don't know anything about Batman, I'm about to give away a big spoiler. I was actually really blown away the fact that Joker is the one who killed Batman's parents, which is, in the comic book, that's not how it went, but that was one of the things that the writers changed for the movie. in the long scheme of things, was it right for them to change that? Probably not. They probably should have just stuck it how it was before. But for that film, it worked. And I know that what they were going at with that, it was reinventing the Batman franchise, and it was great. And I guess there's really only two things that I really didn't like now that I'm older. And because of that, I would give it a 3.5 out of 4-star rating. I don't like the Prince songs that are randomly in it. It didn't bother me so much when I was a kid, but it really takes away and really brings a dated feel to the movie. You know, it's kind of a timeless film, but then when you get to some sequences that have Prince in it, Prince music, you're just like, what? It really makes it dated. And I could do without that. And another thing is, I think that if they would have just kept Kim Basinger, stopped screaming as much, like, you know, she does a lot of screaming in the movie. If they would have just muted that a little bit, her performance wouldn't have been so annoying. But other than that, I love the film. And I was really shocked to hear, because of his experiences in the filmmaking, that Tim Burton really wasn't all that happy with this film. And I was like, man, that one's my favorite one. When I was little, I didn't like Batman Returns. I thought it was too dark, but we'll get to that in a second. And so, I don't know, I didn't realize it was going to leave a bad taste in his mouth, but now that I know why, all those, you know, there's issues. I think he was one who was against having the Joker as his parents' killer, but, you know, the studio executives and stuff, they put their hands in it. I don't know. But 3.5 out of 4 stars, 1989's Batman. And I guess next is Batman Returns, starring Michael Keaton, Danny DeVito, Michelle Pfeiffer, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Christopher Walken. And to be honest with you, I really did not like this film growing up. I thought it was way too weird and dark, and I was like, man, Tim Burton is kind of weird. And that was before I knew anything about film. But, so I didn't, to be honest with you, I've only watched this movie like 5 or 6 times in my entire life. And up until recently, I hadn't watched it in years. And I was like, you know what? I haven't watched it since I was, you know, in 7th grade or so. I'm going to watch it again. I'm going to give it another chance. And so I started watching it. And man, it's amazing. I mean, it's an amazing film. It's superior than the first one on many levels. Artistically, you know, I think some of the really the characters are better. I love Christopher Walken in it. But really, the style of the film is amazing. It really gives this chilling feel, an atmospheric feel to the city of Gotham, and where evil could strike any second. And it really looks like a city that Batman needs to protect. Like, it really looks vicious, cold, dark, and really haunting. And one of the things that really bugged me at first is I always felt bad for the character of Penguin. I always felt like it was just such a depressing character, and he was an awful character because of that. Like, they made him extremely depressing. But now that I watched it when I was older, he's actually a very well-developed character. And I didn't catch a lot of things when I was younger about how, yes, he was thrown into, you know, the sewer, but then I didn't realize that he actually gone out and joined a circus and did all these things, and like, he was actually a very big manipulator and master criminal. And in many ways, he is a lot more ruthless than the Joker in the film-wise. And so, and I also thought that Michael Keaton did a very good job as Batman. And I think the reason why is because he really showed a lot of the, I guess you could say, the complex side of Batman. You know, he was kind of, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but it really came out during the scene when him and Max Schreck are talking about this power plant that's being built. I mean, usually in the Batman movies, when he's Bruce Wayne, we never really see him fight for anything as Bruce Wayne. But in this film, he goes up against Schreck, and he's like, you know, I'm going to take you to the cleaners, basically, about these things. And it really shows that he is a strong character, and he might be a millionaire playboy or whatever, bachelor, I guess you could say, but he has his own issues, and he's not going to let anybody double cross him. And I really think his performance was amazing in the film. Michelle Pfeiffer was good as Catwoman, and even though I think Catwoman is a very annoying character and I can't stand her, I really thought that everything else in the film really overshadowed her character, because everything was great. I thought she was good, but I didn't think that whole character, I don't really think they needed Catwoman. I thought that was kind of a weird thing. I wouldn't have mind if they could have brought back Vicky Vale or something like that. I don't know. I'm kind of having mixed feelings about Catwoman, but the film I think was amazing. It's a completely different film. I think Tim Burton, I think he said he had way more control over it, and he was like, you know what, we're not going to have the same experiences that Batman had. If I'm going to be involved, I'm going to do it my way. And he did it his way, and you could look at it and tell it's a Tim Burton film. It's just amazing. Now, it is very dark, like I said before, and I didn't like it when I was a kid. And I do know there was controversy of when it came out because it was so dark. But I'm not going to let that stop me anymore, because I think it's a very well done film, heavily underrated. And I think it's underrated for, you know, I don't know what the reason is, because I think people are really wanting it to be a lot more happier, but really it's very good. And I think there's a lot of happy parts to it. I think it's not as depressing as people seem, but I think that just shows the amount of artistic talent that Tim Burton has, because, you know, it wasn't a happy town. There was criminals. Batman was needing to stay in charge, keeping everybody in check. And it really gave us something to look at and say, man, Batman does have one hard job. Like, he has a really hard job. And so, I don't know, I just have a brand new appreciation of the film. And because of my annoyance with Catwoman, this would also only get a 3.5 out of 4 star rating. And so, with that, let's go ahead and head over to Batman Forever. Batman Forever was made after the studio pretty much fired Tim Burton because of the controversy surrounding the darkness of Batman Returns. And they wanted somebody to come along and, make it more, I guess, happier and more, comic-y, I guess. And so they brought Joel Schumacher, who really, he had a lot of things to his credit at that time. He did, The Lost Boys and some other things. But he really took away the spirit of Batman. And I mean the comic of Batman. He brought back some of the campiness of the television series, but I don't know. Everybody has their own opinion of Joel Schumacher. I personally think that it's a good thing he became a Batman director, because of him, we now have Christopher Nolan, who's making great Batman films. I love the new Christopher Nolan films. Maybe Christopher Nolan wouldn't have came around if it wasn't for Joel Schumacher screwing it all up, I guess you could say. And so, but I always enjoyed Batman Forever. I always enjoyed it. And I have seen a lot of fans of Batman embrace this film, but not the next film. And I think it's because this one has some redeeming qualities, and I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Tim Burton produced this film. Val Kilmer as Batman, he was okay. He was average. He didn't steal the show or anything for me. Two-Face was a very good villain. I think Tommy Lee Jones is great in everything he does. I think he was slightly over the top at some times, which brought out, that's how the television show was. A lot of it's over the top, which I was happy with. He's a good character. The Riddler, played by Jim Carrey, I think he was, I love Jim Carrey and everything. Ace Ventura is an amazing movie. I love Dumb and Dumber, I love The Mask, I love Jim Carrey and everything. I thought he was really good as the Riddler. I thought some of his backstory, as he was building up to be the Joker, just as the Edward Nygma kind of guy, I think he was kind of weird, really weird. Not in a psychotic kind of way, but just in a stupid way. I think they could have made that a little bit less cheesy and more crazy. I always enjoyed that. And I just thought the set was I mean, it was different. It was a lot of vivid colors, and it looked like Gotham had come from the dark, shadowy Gotham to really the Blade Runner looking Gotham, bright neon lights and everything, very futuristic. And, you know, I enjoyed it. I thought the film was actually a pretty good film. I thought Chris O'Donnell did a pretty good job as Robin. I mean, he's supposed to be kind of a little wimpy kind of punk. Chris O'Donnell, I think, did a great job. I'm a fan of his. You know, Scent of a Woman, he played a great role in that, and I like NCIS LA, and I never had a problem with that. And I did have a slight issue with certain Batsuit, I guess you could say, nipple shots. You know, I think that was stupid that they added some nipples in the Batsuit, but whatever. I still think it was a pretty good film, and with some of that cheesiness in there, I just don't think in this film the cheesiness overcame it, and because of that, I only give it 3 out of 4 stars. And that leads us in to the most talked about, I guess you could say, Batman film now, and that is, or I guess the most made fun of Batman film, the Batman film that they say ruined the franchise. Batman and Robin, starring George Clooney as Batman, Chris O'Donnell as Robin, Alicia Silverstone as Batgirl, Uma Thurman as Poison Ivy, and Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze. This is probably the most realistic of Bat films. I'm just kidding. That was a joke. I think that Joel Schumacher, you know, I think he just went crazy. This film has some of the cheesiest lines in it, some of the dumbest things. I think that Arnold Schwarzenegger should not have been in this film. You know, what was the beginning? There was ice skating at the beginning, in the middle of a fight scene. Yes, just because Mr. Freeze froze the ground does not mean that Batman is all of a sudden an expert figure skater. That's how it seems. And this time you get butt shots of Batman, you get crotch shots of Batman. You know, the nipples on the Batsuit are way more defined. It just gets really stupid. I mean, one of the dumbest parts in this whole film, and I put this on my Facebook page, and Dr. Hasline, he's another guy here on YouTube, awesome guy, check out his channel, I'll put the link above. I put something on my Facebook, and he basically said, let me tell you what I put the shot of this film when Robin and Batman are they're betting over Uma Thurman's character, you know, kind of like an auction of a woman, and Robin's like, $100, $100,000, you know, that kind of thing, and then Batman's like, $5 million, and everybody's like, oh, and Robin goes, how are you going to pay for that? And Batman, played by George Clooney, takes out his credit card, and on the credit card it just has a bat symbol, and it says expiration date forever, and then George Clooney looks at Robin and says, never leave the cave without it. And it's such a cheesy line, and there's so many cheesy lines in this film, way over the top. The action scenes just get boring, and I don't even want to talk about this film anymore. But here's the thing. It is watchable. There's some movies that aren't watchable. I put this in the Plan 9 from Outer Space category, a film that's so bad, it's still somewhat fun to watch. I'm not going to say I'm one of those people that love watching it all the time, but I'm not really bored with it. I just make fun of it like crazy. It's funny to make fun of because Joel Schumacher actually thought this was good. I mean, it's just so funny. And because of this film, the Batman franchise was destroyed. And all of us Batman fans were left in the ruins to deal with this mass destruction. Okay, I'm getting a little bit too melodramatic here, but that's my take on all 4 of those Batman films. And basically, it was just great films up until the end, when one film destroyed it all. It was like that torpedo that sunk the battleship. But guess what? Somebody named Christopher Nolan decided to take that battleship that was sunk and make it into a wonderful, unsinkable ship. So I think. I'm really excited for the next Batman film to come out in theaters, The Dark Knight Rises, and hopefully within the next 6 months or so, I'm eventually going to be doing a new one of these videos, and it's going to be me talking about the Batman trilogy by Christopher Nolan, because by that time it'll be a trilogy in the summer when The Dark Knight Rises comes out, and the trilogy that Christopher Nolan directed is going to be complete, and so I'll have more to review. So that means that I'll be talking about Batman Begins, Dark Knight Rises. I might do a review of Batman Begins and The Dark Knight before The Dark Knight Rises comes out, but I'm not sure. But either way, I love Batman, and I will try to think of some other Batman related videos I could do down the road, because it's just awesome. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I thank you for subscribing, staying subscribed, and I will be getting another video out in the next couple of days of my favorites. I got really sick, as I said in the last video, and it's been off and on for the last 2 weeks. It's been awful, and finally today was a good day, so I decided to go ahead and film, because I miss filming all the time. But I hope that I'm not sick anymore soon, because I'm getting so sick of being it, you know. So look for the favorites, and don't forget to subscribe to Dr. Hasline. I did mention him in my video, so you better make sure. Actually, I'll have the link down here, so be sure to check him out. Awesome dude, great videos, hardcore Planet of the Apes fan, hardcore Seinfeld fan. You know, Seinfeld's my favorite show, so I'll never go. I don't think anything's wrong with anybody who likes Seinfeld. So definitely check out his videos. And until next time, thank you for watching Ryan's Cinematic Obsessions. Remember, there's 3 ways of doing things: the right way, the wrong way, and the chat way.